Bubbles, dark basement, scuttles, fingernails.
Hi witches, it's Rose. Today, Nikka and Kory decided to get together and give us a little insight into Imbolc. Before we get there, don't forget to like, follow, or subscribe in whichever app you're listening to us on. Here we go.
Hey witches, it's Nikka. We've got a special treat for you guys here this month. We're gonna give you a little mini episode on Imbolc, which is a Celtic fire festival on the Wiccan Wheel of the Year. I've got Kory here with me to chat about some things revolving around this Sabbath.
Hi.
We are winging this one, folks.
Yes, we are.
Bear with us. Like I said, Imbolc is a Celtic fire festival that's been incorporated into the Wiccan Wheel of the Year. It's the midwinter celebration, so it occurs at the midpoint between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. On the Wheel of the Year, Imbolc is typically celebrated on the evening of February 1st into February 2nd. But astrologically speaking, it occurs when the sun is at 15 degrees in Aquarius, which falls on February 4th this year. The astrological significance of that is 15 degrees Aquarius is the exact midpoint between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. And the idea behind Imbolc is to celebrate the coming birth of spring. The word Imbolc or Imbolg, as it was pronounced previously, means in the belly, which kind of describes where we are right now in the cyclical nature of spring. You know, all of those seeds and sprouts, they're in the belly. You can't really see them, but they're there and they're growing and they're coming to fruition.
Imbolc is one of those Sabbaths we don't think of very often because spring here in Canada is it's still winter.
It's very much winter.
It's very much winter. So we tend to look past it a lot and we kind of move on to the spring equinox being. And I find it's like a small little stepping stone to get us through that January, February, March when things are still cold. We don't really think of it as the beginning of spring, but I think we should. And I mean, it's kind of like that extra little oomph to get us through those dark times, knowing that the light is coming and that there is means to celebrate.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because part of the reason I wanted to do this is, and wanted to do that for this Sabbath in particular, is I've decided for myself that this year in particular, I'm going to make a bigger deal out of Imbolc than I ever have previously. Like you said, I mean, it's one of those things that I've always just kind of been like, whatever.
Yeah.
But being somebody that suffers from seasonal affective disorder, and winter is a really shitty time of year for me, I feel like this is a really great opportunity for me to be like, okay, you know what? Like, winter's over. Like, you're done. Okay? It's like spring is coming. You're done. I'm done with feeling shitty, and I'm going to celebrate the fact that spring is coming and be happy about it.
It's a nice step to kind of bring up those spirits. Imbolc is actually celebrated a lot using whites and blues.
Yes.
Which is very comforting. It's still cold colors, but it's like a lot of flowers, a lot of milk, a lot of like soft things.
Yeah.
Which I think kind of helps with any harshness that, we're experiencing at that time.
Some of the mythology that's associated with Imbolc in the Celtic pantheon in particular actually talks about where a lot of those associations that you were just talking about come into play. In the Celtic mythology, Imbolc in particular is you're celebrating the return of Bridget, Bride, Bridget,
however you want to pronounce
it. We had a whole discussion on this. Pick your pronunciation. We're going with Bridget. So you're celebrating her return, and thus with her return, the return of spring. Because what's happened is around Samhain, and here's another one that we're going to butcher the pronunciation of, the Cailleach. I'm not going to say that too many times because that one's not as nice on the tongue. She essentially kidnaps Bridget and holds her captive in her cave, and this is where winter comes in. The Cailleach is known as a goddess of cold and winter and darkness. She's responsible for storms, particularly during the winter month. She's rumored to ride through the air on a black wolf, which is fun.
Very.
She's often described as a elderly woman with blue skin and white hair, and she's got a real hate on for green things. She's got a wand that she waves around in the winter to annihilate any signs of green and life. That's part of her thing. And with Imbolc, this is supposed to be where, depending on which legend or mythology you're going with, because there you got your Celtic, your Scottish Celts and your Irish Celts and your English Celts and your the Gaelics and whatever. She either turns to the Caliach either turns to stone or drinks from a fountain of youth and turns into Bridget.
Oh.
Or she turns into stone and Bridget escapes, thus bringing spring.
Right.
But that's where some of like the colors and stuff like that comes in. And then when you're talking about living on a farm, this is right around the time where your cows and your sheep start to get pregnant and get ready for birth in the spring. So the milk is readily available. It's where cows and ewes are associated with this holiday as well. And then groundhogs, which I this is my favorite part of this holiday. I love it so much. In the mundane world, we do Groundhog's Day. Yes. February 2nd in the mundane world is Groundhog's Day. And the whole point of Groundhog's Day is supposed to be we stalk some groundhogs and wait for them to come out of their burrows and see whether or not they see their shadow. And this is going to decide whether we're going to have an early spring or not. And part of where this weird little mundane tradition that we have with the groundhogs came from has to do with Bridget and the Caliach as well. Mm-hmm. And it's been said that on Imbolc, if it is a bright sunny day, that the Caliach will wake up early and go out and collect firewood because she needs to keep herself warm for the rest of the winter. Thus being, if the groundhog comes up and sees his shadow, we're going to have another 6 weeks of winter. Right? Because if the Caliach is preparing for more fires and more winter, etc., if it's a dark, gloomy day outside, she's going to sleep through the day. She's not going to be out collecting firewood, and therefore we are going to have an early spring. And that's part of where that came from. And then, according to irishcentral.com, you might well ask where the groundhog comes into the telling of this tale. For that, we must look back to the ancient Romans, who also believed they could predict the year's weather. However, in their case, it was linked to soothsaying. Mm-hmm. The Romans looked to hedgehogs for guidance. It was said that if during hibernation, the hedgehog looks out of his den on February 2nd and sees its shadow, it means there is a clear moon and 6 more weeks of winter, so he will return to his burrow. The tradition was carried through Europe, including Germany. It was the arrival of the Germans to Pennsylvania that they took up the tradition once more. However, as hedgehogs are not native to the state, they turned to the now famous groundhog for their prediction.
Okay. So originated with the Romans, and then the Germans adapted it and brought it over to...
And then they brought it over to the States. And now we harass hedgehogs to predict the weather for us.
Groundhogs.
Hedgehogs, yes.
Hedgehogs are cute, but, you know.
They are very cute.
They are very cute and small. I definitely an interesting correlation. I wish they, celebrated with more white and blue. But
you're right. So, I mean, for colors associations, I've got white, gray, light blue, but I also have a lot of those like typical Easter kind of colors as well too, like light green, pinks, yellow, gold, to symbolize your sunlight and stuff like that. For symbolism for Imbolc, I've got rebirth, new life, new beginnings, rejuvenation, cleansing, transition, and divination. So basically, you want to use this as an opportunity to leave behind all of those things that are no longer serving you and move forward and change into the person that you want to be and the person that you've always dreamed of being. And if you listen to our astrology episode, there's going to be some really cool transits coming up that can help you out with that. So for other symbols, I've got candles and fire. Obviously, you want to use that fire to bring heat and welcome the sun and the longer days and the warmer weather. You could also do a Bridget's cross or a Bridget corn doll if that's your thing and you're into the Celtic mythology of it. For food and drink, I have got milk, cheese, yogurt, and dairy products, beef and lamb, breads, cake, spiced wine, herbal teas, honey cake, and muffins. For herbs, I've got angelica, basil, bay, blackberry, which has strong associations with Bridget, chamomile, rosemary, heather, rowan, dill, myrrh, and willow. For crystals, I've got amethyst, bloodstone, ruby, turquoise, garnet, and onyx. And for tarot cards, I have got the Death card, the Empress card, the Star, and Strength.
For incense, they suggest benzoin and vanilla.
I love benzoin.
I can't say that I've ever smelled that one.
It smells really good. It actually smells very much like it's got a vanilla-y kind of scent to it.
It's kind of all in that kind of circle, eh?
Yeah, it's delicious. So I've got some ways to celebrate here. So I think a really big, easy one is to plan your garden for the spring. What are you going to grow? How are you going to grow it? Where are you going to plant everything, etc.? We already touched briefly on the Bridget Cross or the corn dolly. I don't want to spend too much time on those because it's everywhere on the internet if that's what you choose to do. I know for me personally, I am going to ensure that I go spend some time outside looking for signs of spring. This is a big part for me in overcoming that seasonal depression and using this as the catalyst to kind of push past that. I'm going to go take a nice long nature walk and I'm going to go look for, shoots and buds or any difference in animal behavior that I can see and notice that, the sun's rising a little bit earlier and setting a little bit later. I'm also going to be starting my spring cleaning. I'm going to start the purging process now and getting rid of that stagnant, kind of dead winter energy. I'm getting rid of all of the crap in my house that I don't want or need anymore, and I'm going to donate it to people that could use it more than I could. And then obviously you've got your fire, your candles, etc. And then I've got a thing here about ice lanterns, which are really cool. And that's basically you take, 2 bowls, you got a bigger one and a slightly smaller one, and you put them, the smaller one in the big one, put a bunch of plants in between the 2 bowls, and then fill it up with water in between the bowls and freeze it. Bonus points if you do it outside under a full moon, which Imbolc technically falls on this year.
Nice.
Because it's on the 4th going into the 5th. The full moon's on the 5th. Imbolc's on the 4th. And anyways, full moon energy in there. And then once it's frozen, you take the inside bowl out. Mm-hmm. Like you take the ice out of the bowl, you take the inside bowl out, stick your candle in, and it's your fire and ice. And it's a really cool representation of Bridget and the Kaliak, or fire and ice, winter, spring, etc.
The spring cleaning's a great idea. I think that's where they come up with that spring cleaning idea, right? Is that you're trying to remove all of that clutter from the entire past year. Yeah. And a good sweep with your witch's broom actually would, I know we do it at New Year's.
I mean, I do it once a month, but...
Do you do it that often? Okay.
I do a good sweep once a month. It's part of my whole cleansing thing, that and a floor wash.
Oh, yes. Love the floor wash.
I love a good floor wash.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. No, it's a good time to rethink, kind of set your goals for the upcoming circle around the wheel and kind of reassess what you want out of the year.
It's a really good time. For me personally, it's almost like this is the time that you're planting your seeds. I am not a gardener person. I don't grow plants, but that phase where, you put your seeds in the little cups, germinating.
Oh, yeah, the germinating
Okay,
stage,
so this is like the germinating stage, right?
Yeah.
Where you...
Got them all lined up on your windowsill.
Yeah, so you're going to take those seeds of those intentions that you want to start to sprout in the spring, and you're going to plant them now. Yeah. And this is where, you're going to start having... you've got your new moons and your full moon intentions and stuff like this. This is a much bigger style working because it's something that you're gradually going to build towards over the course of the year. Yeah. Right? So you're in your germination phase right now. You're going to put your seeds in your little cups and you're going to stick them in the windowsills and let them soak up some sun and sprout.
I would say around this time is when I do my yearly read for my tarot cards. Yeah. For the entire year. So I'll do a wheel. Yeah. Of 12 with one card in the center to represent myself. And honestly, that's probably the most prominent one that I do all year. Yeah. It's the largest one that I do all year. And I kind of go through it, kind of jot everything down kind of get an idea of how my year is going to pan out. And it helps me along the way because then I can refer back to it often going, okay, what did my card say that, was kind of going to be the overview for this month? It just gives me a little bit to prepare for because you never know, right? You have that tower that shows up that you're like, it's falling apart.
Yeah, April's gonna be shit.
April, yeah, be prepared. So yeah, I love doing that, and doing it around this time is good. I usually do it straight after December 31st ish. I do it at the beginning of January.
I tend to do mine more towards the spring equinox.
Do you?
Because for me, that's like new beginnings, but maybe I might this year do it around
try at the beginning of that time, and see how that goes instead.
We're gonna try and keep this one short and sweet, guys. We are planning on doing one of these for every Sabbath on the Wheel of the Year for this year, so stay tuned for that come the spring equinox, where we're going to hopefully pull in Miss Aiden and have her tell us about working with the land a little bit at the spring equinox. Happy Imbolc.
Happy Imbolc.
Bubbles. Dark basement. Scuttles. Fingernails.